feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. When it take a swim, only option is to win.
Welcome to the post-show wrap-up of the Shrimp Tank. I'm Brad Berger, along with my co-host Dan Whedon. Our guest today is John Sechrest, founder of the Seattle Angel Conference, co-organizer of the Lean Startup Seattle, and global facilitator for Startup Weekend. We just had a fantastic conversation with John. To listen to the entire podcast, visit our website, www.seattle.shrimptankpodcast.com, or subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. We're always interested in your feedback, so please don't forget to rate us. So, John, always learn something when we interview our guests, and one of the things that I learned was exactly what type of angel investor, or the definition of an angel investor, is. Could you enlighten our audience a little bit about who makes a good angel investor?
Well, I think that angel investing has a bunch of different flavors. So you could be a active angel investor who's engaged in the company. So people who actively talk to the company, who do active introductions into things that they know, that know a particular industry and help with that industry. And so that's a useful thing. But there's also passive investments that you can do. So you can be part of a fund like Alliance of Angels or Sechrest, who have passive funds that match things. So there's different pathways, but generally somebody who's wealthy enough that if they lose the money, they don't care. Mm-hmm. That's sort of the starting point.
An important point.
And that they have some impact in the world that they're interested in to try and make happen, and the investment in the company does that.
And just a quick follow-up on that. Typically, how much money does it take if somebody wanted to be an angel investor?
Well, by law, you have to have $1 million, or you have to have $200K in revenue or in income. But typically, people are investing, 5 to 10% of their total net worth, which, for a millionaire, that's $100,000 total. And you want that to be in several deals, like 20 deals. So you're writing checks. The companies typically want checks that are $25,000 to $50,000 at the smallest. The investors can write $5,000 checks as a group together and make that up to, you and 9 friends make 10, make $50,000. So angels writing $5,000 is the recipe we teach. Companies really need probably $100,000 checks for it to make sense in terms of the overhead of making it go, because of the cost of the lawyers and such.
Good, thank you.
Well, John, you mentioned that angels are wealthy enough that they don't care if they make money or not. The people asking for the money, they care. And so, we're talking to maybe some potential startup entrepreneurs out there. On the flip side, who makes a good potential startup who would go seeking angel investing?
Yeah, so for the companies that apply for angel investing, for every 1,000 that apply, maybe 100 actually get invited to pitch. And of the 100 that pitch, about 2 get funded. And so it's companies that are growth companies, where the possibility of you being exponentially growing of something like 5 times or 10 times a year, that's a lovely angel deal. But companies that are linear growth companies, someone who's going to be 100,000 this year and 110,000 next year and so forth, that's not really angel investable. There are other pathways that'll support that, where people can engage in that process with local people, friends, neighbors who are willing to invest. And Department of Financial Institutions has a good program that lists those choices. But if you're not a growth company, if you don't have week-over-week exponential growth, somewhere between 3 and 5% a week, probably not angel investable. Or at least you ought to have a plan for how to do that, because sometimes angels invest before you have revenue, and so the only thing you have at that point is the idea that you'll do it.
Yeah, thanks, John.
So, John, I know one of the things that we've been focusing on in these first couple of questions that we've asked you had to do about the angel investors itself, but I know you do a lot of work with entrepreneurs. Can you tell us a little bit about the work that you do for the people who are on the other side of the table who are looking for the money?
Yeah, so there are a lot of co-working spaces in the Seattle area. I know there's a couple in Tacoma as well. I did a talk last month at Surge. But their companies, they're not really big enough yet to afford a multi-year lease, and so they're going into those places. I run workshops there, generally 10 to 20 people kinds of things. And I also, sometimes they need more than just a group meeting, so I do one-on-one training and I do workshops which are perhaps better called accountability things, where a lot of times people have so many things they need to do that they stop being focused at all. And so I run an accelerator where it's a 10-week program where we do weekly accountability stand-ups.
Yeah, well, that's excellent. So John, we want to thank you for joining us. How can our listeners and our viewers get in touch with you?
SeattleAngelConference.com describes the conference. My blog is oomaat.com, OOMAAT.com, one order of magnitude at a time. My Twitter address is @Sechrest. Best thing is to tweet at me. I do that better than I do email.
And I know you've made a very generous offer to those that are listening or viewing this podcast and our video wrap-up. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're offering some of our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So our goal is to create more angel investors, and our goal is to get stronger and better entrepreneurs doing growth companies so that we change things. So we're always trying to get people to understand that process. On May 17th, we're going to do a angel conference where we'll go through the process about picking the winner. Glad to give a couple of tickets to you for any of your followers that want to either learn how to do angel investing or want to learn how to get angel investing.
That'd be excellent. So Dan, what do you think?
Well, I have learned a whole lot about angel investing, and if you, watching this video wrap-up, want to learn a lot more about angel investing, both sides of it, you need to listen to the entire podcast. So make sure you're jumping on iTunes or jumping onto our website and watching or listening to the whole podcast.
We want to make sure you visit our website. That's www.seattle.shrimptankpodcast.com. And that's where you can subscribe to that podcast that Dan was just telling you about. And always, we're all interested in your feedback, so we want to make sure that you rate us. And until next time, we always like to remind you, to become a shark, we all start out as shrimps.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank.